Namaste, everyone. Good afternoon, and welcome to this afternoon's webinar, Persecution of Hindus in Afghanistan, Bangladesh, and Pakistan. We are really excited to have some respected and knowledgeable speakers on this subject today with us. But first, here's a short video on Insight UK. Thank you. I would like to introduce our speaker, Shri Rajesh Gognaji, who hails from New Delhi. He's a lawyer, Secretary General of Human Rights Defense International. HRDI has been supporting the cause of Hindus in Pakistan since 2005. Their activities include writing protest petitions and staging demonstrations outside Pakistani High Commission in Delhi. They have been organizing seminars in support of Hindus in Pakistan, and coordinating and networking with civil and Hindu rights activists in Pakistan. HRDI also organized a refugee camp for Hindus from Pakistan at Majnu Ka Tila in Delhi in the year 2011. They are helping Hindu refugees from Pakistan for getting a long-term visa and citizenship in India. HRDI is equally active in supporting the cause of Hindu refugees from Sri Lanka, Bhutan, Afghanistan, and Bangladesh. They have also supported the Hindu resistance in Malaysia. Rajeshji, welcome, namaste, and over to you now.
Okay, welcome, and thank you very much for inviting me. And as I am given 19 minutes, so I try to segregate my presentation in 3 different parts. First 5 minutes for Afghanistan, because nowadays there is absolutely no Hindu population in Afghanistan. And then 10 minutes for Pakistan, and then 4 minutes for Hindu refugees in India. So as far as Afghanistan is concerned, from Rigveda, you must have read about Kandahara. So during that Rigveda time, the Kandahara, the Hindu population, it was not Hindu at that time. So some kind of a Vedic inhabitations were there. And thereafter in 7th and 8th century, there was Turk-Shahi and Hindu-Shahi. And even recently, we have many excavations where Ganesh temples were recovered from there. Then things, because of the invasion of Ghazni, then Hindu population collapsed. It then reappeared in 19th century when Raja Ranjit Singh invaded Afghanistan, and there were Hindu and Sikh merchants. And people say that prior to the invasion of this Taliban, the population of Hindus and Sikhs ranged between 80,000 to 2 lakh, 2 lakh 20,000. So there is no official record because in Afghanistan the census was not there. But in estimation, it is from 80 lakh to 22 lakh to 2,000. And the ratio of the Hindu and Sikh population is 60 to 40. So more Sikhs than Hindus. And they say that Guru Nanak Ji also visited Kabul. So there is a Gurdwara. And there used to be about 32 Gurdwaras in Kabul, Kandahar, and neighboring cities. And temples, number was again more than 30. So these people, Hindus and Sikhs who were there, they're having a total control of the banking of say trading, and almost 60 to 70% of the commercial activities of Kabul used to be controlled by Hindus and Sikhs. They used to call them Baniyas, and they were having a ultimate credibility amongst the Afghans. They were being well respected. And as long as the Democratic Republic of Afghanistan was existing, Hindus and Sikhs were having no problem, and they were holding very important positions in government also. Then, as you know, that then Taliban came, and in 1996, and during the Taliban regime, Hindus were told to wear those yellow badges because they want Hindus to wear the badges so that they can protect them. So that kind of a segregation, which we see normally, used to take place in Germany when the racial superiority was being propagated by Hitler and others. So that kind of a segregation and wearing of the yellow patches for Hindus, Sikhs were quite visible because Sikhs were having beard and turbans. So Hindus were told to wear the yellow patches, and Hindu girls were forced to wear the burqas. So that continued as long as the Taliban regime was going on. In 2002, the Loya Jigra, they reserved 2 seats for Hindus in Loya Jigra, that is kind of a parliament or representative body, and about 3 seats for the Sikhs. And this continued for some time, but in the year 2013, this reservation was withdrawn, and since thereafter there was no representation of Hindus and Sikhs in any representative body of Afghanistan. And then we know about the collapse of the population because during the regime of Taliban, this number of Hindus, which I again say it's not certain, it is from 80,000 to 2 lakh. So they started leaving Kabul and Afghanistan. Most of them settled in Germany and other part of the world. A large number of Hindus and Sikhs from Afghanistan came to India, and they came during 1996 to 2000. So most of them are quite well settled, not well settled, but settled in Delhi, in India. They have got their citizenship. They are in a comfortable position as far as India is concerned, and they are also having comfortable position in Germany and other countries. But in the recently, after the collapse of the withdrawal of the American forces, again there was numerous attacks on gurdwaras and temples. We have seen that as many as 7 incidents of bombing of gurdwaras has taken place. A large number of Sikhs were killed. Hindu temples were also attacked. So as of now, to my information, there are only 3 Hindus. Hindus means I'm not counting the Hindus who are there in Indian embassy and working with some international agencies. Only 3 Hindus. 2 of them are priests, Ratan Lal and Hari, who are just staying in the temples. There are now around, say, 13 to 46 who are still there in Kabul. So it is a classic example where there's a collapse of the population of Hindus and Sikhs from, say, 2 lakh to the total number is not more than 30 or 40 as it stands today. So it is a classic example where the polarization of society, where Islamization of society has resulted into total collapse of Hindu population. And these people, there is absolutely no hope that these Hindus and Sikhs who were always Afghans, who lived there for 300, 400 years, would ever be in a position to go back to Afghanistan. So that's there. And 2 things which I wanted to mention, because as we talk about the Afghanistan, we say Kandahar, and then we say Hindu Kush mountain range. So I just wanted to tell you that what does it mean? Hindu Kush means where the Hindus were killed. So Hindu Kush, where the Hindus were killed. So this name also excites everyone, because what happened when Muhammad Ghazni came, then he used to take slaves from India, all women and men. So this number was from 2 lakh to 5 lakh. And when they were traveling through the mountain range, they used to die. So because of that particular incident, the name Hindu Kush has emerged. So that also reminds us that large number of Hindus were killed or slain or lost their life in this Kush mountains. And such was the condition that when the Hindu slaves were being taken by Ghazni to Afghanistan, uh, the price of the slaves in the market came down drastically. And even the middle class traders were having Hindu slaves in the Afghanistan during that regime. So this is there. Hindus have faced from the ruler of that country in the 7th and 8th century, 7th and 8th century during the Hindu Shahi to total collapse of the population. It is a classic example which has never happened in any part of the world. I'm just summing up about Afghanistan because I want to talk more about Pakistan, and I've got this presentation of Dr. Samir Kalra with me, so I don't want that there should be any repetition. Samir ji, in his presentation, is going to tell about the demography, Hindu demography. So I just want to avoid, but I just want, because in his presentation, he has said that the Hindu population of Pakistan is 1.6%. And because when we talk about the percentage of the population, unless we know the total census or total population of Pakistan, we are not able to assess as to how many Hindus are there in Pakistan. So I just want to tell you that the total population of Pakistan, as far as the 2017 census is concerned, was 207.68 million, around 27 crores, more than 27 crores. And in this population, uh, there are around 1.6% are Hindus and 1.59% are Christians. If we go as per the total population, then the number of Hindus in Pakistan as per the 1998 census was 2 million, 1.6%, 2 million, because the population was at that time 132.3 million. And as far as the Hindu population of the Pakistan is concerned, the total census is 207.68 million. Then Hindu population comes to 3.5 million. So there is an increase of 1.5 million in the Hindu population in Pakistan in the last 20 years, rather 19 years. So this is there. So that is why I just wanted you to know that things should be presented as they are. Now, I also wanted to tell you that there are about 21,006, and there are about say 28 or 29 lakh Christians. So who are these Christians in Pakistan? So Pakistan, most of the Christians are called Chudas. Chudas is a Hindu caste, lower caste, and almost 90% of the Chuda population, of the Christian population of Pakistan, are converts. So in 1870, Protestants started a movement for converting Chudas to Christianity. And by 1930, the total population of the Pakistan, that side of population, Chuda population, got converted to Christianity. And so when you talk about the Hindus in Pakistan, you should remember that even these Christians were originally Hindus, they are converts. And they were converted to Christianity because they were not having the equal rights or status in Hindu society. So while thinking about the Hindus, also consider these are also the people of Hindu origin. So they should also be counted and be kept in mind whenever you talk about them. And mm, mm, because most of the things are going to be covered by Samir ji, I just want to tell you that about 90% of the Hindus of Pakistan are low caste Hindus. They are Dalits. So being Dalits, they are landless labor. So they don't have access to the education. They don't have access to the resources, financial resources. So they are means having absolutely no support system, because being very poor, very poor, and being belonging to Hindu community, they have absolutely no support from the government agencies. So they live in a very pathetic situation. Uh, this is there, which is happening with the Hindus over there. And about discrimination, I'm not getting into the incidents. And so what I tell you, because when we organized this camp at Majnu Ka Tela, Delhi, so I used to go to them and talk to them for hours together. And what they used to tell me that there were separate cups and utensils for Hindus in ordinary village shop. So if you want to go for a cup of tea or to want to have a food, then the Hindus' cups were different. They were kept at a dirty corner. Hindu used to go there, wash their cups, have their tea, and take it. If they want to have food somewhere, they should take their utensils from the dirty corner, wash them, and take their food and take it. So this kind of a discrimination at the macro level was and is going on in Pakistan. And what they used to tell me that if the Hindu boys are working in a street shop, mithai ki dukan, and then people living of that area, they will stop buying sweets from that shop because they will say, आप लोग नापाक लोगों से आप काफिरों के साथ काम करते हो हम आपसे सामान ले लेंगे. So then you get some kind of an employment, but immediately when other people are objecting to it, you are again jobless. You don't have land, you don't have skills, you don't have education, and if you want to go there, do some minimal jobs, even that is being denied to you. So that kind of discrimination which is being faced by the Hindu population in Pakistan, all around the Pakistan. It is not that it is happening in Sindh or Tharpurkar. One ray of hope which I wanted to tell you, that despite that all adversaries, there is a district of Tharpurkar. So in Tharpurkar, even as on date, the Hindu population is 52%. And total Hindu population, as I told you, is 3.3 million. So Hindu population is 52% in that Tharpurkar district, and the number is 7,50,000. So it's a huge population of Hindus is existing in those areas. So about this, then the things which are not in the notice of the people around the world is about the cremation, because Hindus normally cremate their bodies and they don't bury them. And at the time of partition, there were about more than 200 cremation grounds in Punjab, about 17 or 18 in Lahore. So all the cremation grounds were closed. And in Lahore, there used to be, in Punjab province, there used to be a population of more than 50,000 Hindus. And there was a huge population of Hindus in Lahore also. And from 47, if you just put in the Google cremation grounds in Lahore, then they will very proudly declare that in 2021, somewhere in November, they inaugurated one cremation ground near to Lahore. From 47 to 2021, there was no cremation ground in Lahore. I'm talking about the Swat Valley and other places. There are no cremation grounds. So if the cremation grounds are not there, the cremation ground is there in Nankana Sahib. If someone dies, then you have to go from Lahore to Nankana Sahib. From Lahore, the distance is about 90 kilometers. From Swat Valley, the distance is about 200 kilometers, 300 kilometers. And on each and every district, you will be stopped at the border. They will ask for the no objection from the district authorities, because cremating a body is a non-Islamic activity. So then you have to seek the permission. So you will carry a body from Swat Valley to Nankana Sahib. It will cost around 50,000 rupees. And to bring that body and to cover 300 or 400 kilometers, you have to travel for about 20, 23, 24, 25 hours. How can it be possible that a community which has no access to resources will cremate their bodies by spending 50,000 rupees? And people from Tharpurkar used to tell me, even Swat Valley, that they used to cremate their bodies near to the river. So if they're cremating their body, then Muslims of the area will come and start throwing stones on them. And then you will call the police. Police will definitely come. Police will come and help you. They will say, okay, all those persons throwing stones, they should be sent back, and ultimately you will cremate their body. But how many times it can happen? Once or twice, someone has died in your family. There was agreement. and you are crying. Then during the cry, when you are cremating the body, then there is an attack. There are abuses. There are stones. So this situation was existing in Pakistan at the time of the partition. It continues to exist. Thank God that now, after about 72 or 73 years, there is one cremation ground in Lahore, that too with the intervention of the court. And one incident I just want to share with you, that in 2011, Radha, who was a Balmiki, she died. And there was a continuous demand of Balmiki community of Lahore that there should be a cremation ground. And the body was kept on the road for 6 days. And all Balmikis of Punjab got together. There was a congregation of about more than 1,000 Balmikis. And after 6 months, after 6 days, they didn't allow the body to be cremated. But at last, now in Lahore, this body, there is a serious problem about the cremation. And about conversion, I'm not saying anything because Samirji will be talking about it at length. Then, yes, about because most of the Hindus believe that ashes should be um, there in the Ganges. So there is a serious problem because a large number of Shamshan Ghats are not there. Even if where the Shamshan Ghats are there, then the ashes are kept and they don't get the visa. So there is an incident, which is a reported incident, that the son came to the cremation ground and said, okay, ashes of my father should be kept over there. Then he died. So ashes of that person, say Ramlal, were kept over there. Then his son died. So ashes of 3 generations were being kept at the Shamshan Ghat: grandfather, father, and son. And they were not being allowed, they were not getting the visa to uh, is, uh, have their last rituals at Haridwar. So this is also a serious problem amongst the Hindus. The population is 3.5 million or more than that. So people are dying. When they die, they want their bodies and their last rituals to be at the Haridwar, but the visas are not there. So this situation is pathetic. I'm again saying that Samirji would be talking more about it, but I am much more concerned the about the pathetic situation of Hindus in Pakistan, because as far as the Christians are concerned, Christian bodies all around the world are there to support them. They are educating them, they are extending them skill developments. But as far as Hindus are concerned, now this flood was there. So Hindus are living in the most pathetic situation. Their slums are really bad. So when the slum was there, all Hindus organization of Sindh and other places were saying, we need help. So all Christian countries or all Christian organizations and churches were sending help to them, food, everything on the earth. But I'm very sorry to say that despite having the best of the networks, despite having the best, most powerful organization of Hindus in India and around the world, absolutely no help was provided to the suffering Hindus of Pakistan during the flood. Not only the flood, because most of the Hindus are not educated, they are not skilled. So I came to know that Christians organizations are providing skill development, are having skill development programs for Christians. So they say, okay, they train them a 3 months course for the repair of the mobile. So most of the Christians, they are educated because Christians are having their educational institutions. They go there, they are being provided with the skill, but no such help is being provided by Hindu organizations from say around the world to in the Pakistan. So they keep on calling, and we should have a network with them, Hindu organization and Hindu activists, and see that at least they have to live in Pakistan. They can't leave this country. They can't. These 35 lakh people cannot leave Pakistan or come to India. No country is going to help them. Even India is not going to receive them. 35 lakh people. So if they are there, then they should be skilled. Then they should be skilled enough that they should have their rights organization. They should have their rights or rights activists, Hindu rights organization. So whenever there is a crisis amongst the Hindus, they should protect them. So I'm stopping from Pakistan, coming to India because there is a large number of Hindu refugees from Pakistan. And if you come to India, you must see their dwellings, you must see their camps. So these people come to India, as you know that India doesn't have any refugee policy. They don't have any refugee law. So if if we had any refugee policy and there were Hindus from or Sikhs from Pakistan, then immediately after landing to India, they will come to the agencies and say, okay, I want refuge, I want asylum. Then every person would be provided with the food, with the shelter, with the clothing, with the education, with the medical help. But when the Hindu come from Pakistan, then he comes on a visa, pilgrim visa, then he applies for the long-term visa. So once he applies for the long-term visa, it takes about 6, 7, 8, 9, 12, 15 years to get the citizenship. Now, as per the law, they say that you should get your passport renewed. So if you want to go to the Pakistan High Commission to get your passport renewed, they say, okay, renewal charges is 10,000 rupees per passport. And these poor families are having 7, 8 members. They don't have any employment because they cannot have any employment. Being on a long-term visa, you cannot have any employment. So if they ask for 50,000 for the renewal of the passport, and if the passport is not renewed, the long-term visa won't be provided, and then their chances to get citizenship of India or get refuge in India are not there. So there are reports in Indian newspapers that around 1,500 Pakistanis who had come to India to seek asylum, they went back. So they came from hell, and ultimately this holy land also proved to be another hell for them. They had to go back, and absolutely no support system, because you go to their colonies, they are living just next to the sewage, then next to the Ganda Nala, and they are in the open. There is no electricity connection, there is no water connection, and there is no access to education. So when they come here, they have absolutely no support. I know some Hindu organizations like Vishwa Hindu Parishad or other organizations are helping them, but a non-government organization cannot help or support a population, say 50,000 people or 40,000 people, because they are living on the roads, and they cannot, earlier they can't they were not having the facility to have a bank account or a driving license. So you don't have a bank account, you don't have a driving license. Things have improved, no doubt about it, but they're still in a very pathetic situation. So I know that it won't be very fair to criticize the government of India that they're not providing any much help to the Hindu refugees. But I'm very sorry to say that all refugees from Tibet, Dalai Lama people, they are having their houses. They are getting 5,000 rupees per month as a stipend. They are getting the best of the education. They are getting their quota in the universities and other institutions. Refugees from Sri Lanka, number is more than 70,000. They have got all kind of facilities, shelter, food, financial support. But unfortunately, the Hindus from Pakistan and Afghanistan, there's not much number of Afghanistan now, but Hindus from Pakistan, they are not getting any support. So when you visit India, or someone known to you visits India, tell him to go to the settlements of Hindu refugees from Pakistan. They're in a pathetic situation. So what I say that the Hindu organizations who are in this advocacy group, they should ensure that there should be enough pressure on the government of Pakistan, that they should ensure that as there is a reservation for minorities in India, they should have a system of reservation of minorities in Pakistan in the educational institutions, in government jobs, in quotas, various quotas for allotment of land, allotment of petrol pump, as we have it there in Malaysia in the name of Bhumiputras. So once that kind of facility, that kind of a support system is extended to the Hindus in Pakistan, they will continue to suffer. And above all, what I say, that criticizing that, okay, Hindus temples are being attacked, Hindu girls are being converted, Hindu girls are being forced to marry, it won't serve any purpose, because then we are just screaming about it. The thing is that are we extending, or are we creating a support system in Pakistan where the Pakistan Hindu rights activists are there, they're well trained, they're well educated, they're well skilled, and they are able to create a confidence in the mind of the Hindu community. Yes, even if there are adversaries, we are skilled enough, we are united enough, we are supported enough around the world, that we can make our survival little better, then Hindu community, it will be real service to the Hindu community in Pakistan. We should also think of putting some pressure on the government of India and tell them that if you can extend an excellent refugee services or facilities to the Tibet, the refugees from Tibet or from Sri Lanka or from Afghanistan, because Afghanistan refugees are also getting the much better treatment than Hindus from Pakistan. Then why can't that be extended to the Hindu refugees from Pakistan? So I understand that my utterances may not be well taken by some of us, but I'm mainly a rights activist. So I believe that if someone has taken the refuge because of the religious persecution, then they should be protected. And it is the humble duty of all the Hindus around the world, all Hindu organizations, to pressurize not only the government of Pakistan or Afghanistan or Bangladesh, but also the government of India, that they should ensure a, a good living standards and education system, shelter to Hindu refugees from Pakistan. I think I've taken my time of 20 minutes, or can I speak for 2 more minutes, sir?
Yes, Rajeshji, please go ahead.
Okay, fine. Uh, some more things which I wanted to discuss, because what is happening in Pakistan nowadays, because recently an activist from UK had come to Delhi, then I had a meeting with him, Mr. Palan, if I'm not Mr. Palan, Nitin Palan, Palan Foundation. So he was in Delhi, then he told me that he's going to Pakistan, and he represents an organization which has support of 190 parliamentarians of European countries. So that organization is going to Pakistan, and that organization is going to Pakistan to ensure support system to the Christian population of Pakistan. If the Christian organizations are smart enough to go to the Pakistan and ensure to put a pressure on the government of Pakistan, I just want to ask myself and all Hindu activists and all Hindu organizations around the world, have you ever thought about visiting and establishing contact with the Hindus of Pakistan? If you have ever thought of establishing a contact with them, have you ever thought of creating a system where they can help, where we can extend our support to them? They can be brought to the European countries or to the India. Education can be extended to them. Networking can be extended from advocacy group. If you are having an advocacy group in UK or in USA or in Delhi, wherever it is, so then you can raise the issue of Hindus in Pakistan. But what help are you providing to them? People keep on calling me, and they are saying visa problem. They are saying citizenship problem, renewal of passport. Every kind of problem is there. So we are there. I know so many people over there. So they keep on calling, and I just keep on listening to them, because I know these poor people don't know that we are claiming that we are supporters to their cause. We are claiming that we are concerned about them, but it is just a claim. It is not supported by any activity. It is not supported by any support system. It's not supported by any advocacy group. When we say advocacy group, where is this advocacy if it's not happening in Pakistan? Where is this support? It is not supporting your fellow religionists in Pakistan or Bangladesh, whatever it is. So I think just cribbing about the things, just protesting about the things, just talking about the things, and just sensitizing everything around it. We should move a step further, get together, and ensure that, okay, if Hindus are facing problems, persecution, yes, they are facing problems and persecution, conversions, every kind of problem is there where a marginalized society can get. Then they should get a feeling, they should get a feel that yes, if we are in problem, our fellow religionists all around the world are at our support, and that support is available with us. That support should be available to all the Hindus, girls who are being kidnapped and converted in Karachi, Tharpurkar, Lahore. Can't we think about a situation where if a girl is kidnapped then all the legal support is extended by the Hindu organization around the world. Can't we engage lawyers? Can't we file the petitions? Because this cremation ground is a result of a petition filed in the Lahore High Court. Vandalization of temple had taken place 2 years back. Then there's vandalization, the temple was restored by the order of the court. Can't we think about that, okay, we should have a support system where we can contact the best of the lawyers, human rights lawyers, human rights activists. We should have our own human rights activists in Pakistan. So we can contact them, talk to them and tell them, okay, come forward, attack it. And put the pressure on the government, go to the courts. So there should be a support system. When there can be a support system of the Christians, why can't be a support system of Hindus? So I think that I may be offending some of my friends, but I think that people are now expecting from us. Earlier, Hindus were not expecting anything from anywhere because they were saying that no one is going to help us with the internet, with the communication, WhatsApp and everything. Now they know they are expecting now, but I know it for certain, you will agree with me, that we cannot address their expectations. We cannot help them. We cannot support them. This is a very pathetic situation. Hindus are there in Pakistan in a pathetic situation, it is fine. But our support system, our advocacy group, we are also in a very pathetic situation. We have become just lip service to their cause. It should be more than the lip service. I don't know. Our organization is a very, very small organization with very limited resources. But despite them, we do something about it. But we can infuse confidence. But just infusing confidence won't help them. Means the support groups, self-help groups. So this kind of education, yes, education. If we can get into this business, litigation, training of the human rights activists, then I think the situation can change. Ultimately, we can help our Hindu brothers and sisters in Pakistan only when we have support system in Pakistan. If we don't have a support system in Pakistan, there is absolutely no fun of having any kind of activities. I'm sorry, I may be offending, but I'm harsh. I'm negative also, but you have to bear with. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rajesh ji. That was very informative and it has given us a lot of food for thought. Dhanyavad.
Thank you.
I would now like to introduce Shri Samir Kalra ji from Fremont, USA. He is the Managing Director for Policy and Programs for the Hindu American Foundation. HAF is a Washington, D.C.-based education and advocacy organization focusing on educating policymakers on human rights and religious freedom issues affecting Hindus around the world. Samirji oversees the Foundation's programs and policy advocacy initiatives and has led international human rights fact-finding missions, advocacy campaigns, and served as a panelist at multiple congressional briefings on human rights in Pakistan, Bangladesh, and many other countries. Samirji has authored and submitted formal testimony and comments for dozens of congressional hearings and policy bodies on foreign policy issues on human rights and has written extensively for several publications on the plight of Hindu minorities in Pakistan and Bangladesh. Welcome to you, Samirji. Over to you now.
Great. Thank you so much. Namaste to everyone. Thank you for having me on this program. Thank you to Rajesh ji for his very poignant and important comments, critical, but I think important for all of us to hear what is necessary in moving forward. So thank you, Rajesh ji, for those kind words.
Welcome.
If I can ask a team to put up, I have a few slides to share to talk a little bit about the situation in Bangladesh and Pakistan. So I'm going to talk a little bit starting with Bangladesh. Next slide, please. So Bangladesh, I'm going to start with just more contemporary history and some of the background there, and then I'll move forward to what's happening there today. So Bangladesh was founded as a secular republic in 1971, but very soon after its independence, Islam was declared the state religion in 1988. There's a history of mass violence against Hindus dating back to 1971, but also if we look at the pre-partition and pre-independence era, there were several riots and anti-Hindu incidents of violence going back several hundreds of years. If you look at some of the major issues that Hindus face there, and this is probably also applies to other minorities, you have Buddhists, you have the tribal population, as well as Christians to a lesser degree, but they also face issues there. Incidents of mob violence, targeted killings, kidnappings, conversions, attacks on temples, illegal occupations of their lands, and a discriminatory legal system. Those are just a few of the daily issues that they deal with, in addition to social marginalization, underrepresentation in positions of government, law enforcement, and other areas across the board. Next slide, please. But where I think I'd like to focus for a few minutes is really what happened in 1971. As I mentioned, as many of the audience may be familiar with, in 1971, prior to Bangladesh's independence, Bangladesh was the eastern wing of Pakistan, or East Pakistan, and the West Pakistani military establishment had been for many years discriminating against the Bengali population in East Pakistan, repressing their language, culture. There was, at the time, prior to 1971 independence movement, there was basically an election that was overturned where a political party from East Pakistan had won the majority. So there was an active attempt to really oppress and suppress the voices of Bengalis in East Pakistan at the time. A number of factors came together. Part of it was that there was a conception of Pakistan that needed to be based on Islam and a unified sense of Pakistan. In East Pakistan, however, the Bengali language, Bengali culture was very closely linked to the Hindu population. So it was a composite culture, and that was viewed as a threat to the West Pakistani military establishment. So again, a number of factors went into what happened then, but there was an independence movement in 1971. India, of course, intervened as well. But what happened was, I think, something historically that has still not gained the recognition that it deserves, where the Pakistani military, in conjunction with local Islamist groups such as Jamaat-e-Islami, conducted a mass killing of unarmed civilians. Now, it has been recognized as a genocide against Bengalis, but what hasn't been recognized was that there was a specific targeting of Hindus as well. And that specific targeting of Hindus led to the killings of 2 million people, majority of whom were Hindus, ethnic cleansing of over 10 million, and also obviously the rapes of 200,000 women. And this was the first documented use of rape camps in war. I would recommend all the audience members to read an excellent book on the history of this issue, not just from what happened on the ground, but also some of the geopolitical factors that led to action or inaction and led to this genocide. And that is called The Blood Telegram, Nixon, Kissinger, and a Forgotten Genocide. An excellent book and very historical that actually details a lot of the communications from the U.S. Embassy on the ground in Bangladesh, sending back cables to the U.S. State Department, and what happened and how a lot of that information was either ignored or how the Nixon administration still went to the aid of Pakistan despite knowing what was happening there. So a very important book and a very important period of time. Now, why is it important to actually recognize that genocide? Number one, because obviously what's happened in history informs what happens today and what happens in the future. But also importantly, one of the main groups that was involved in working with the Pakistani military and committing war crimes at that time, Jamaat-e-Islami, is still very active, not just in Bangladesh, but they have chapters across the world, primarily in South Asia or in the Indian subcontinent, Pakistan, as well as very active in the Indian Union territory of Jammu and Kashmir. But also in the US, and I'm sure in the UK as well. They've been active there through other splinter organizations. And they continue, Jamaat-e-Islami continues to commit mass crimes against Hindus and other minorities in Bangladesh. They continue to try to work towards their vision of creating an Islamic country in Bangladesh and further Islamicizing the society there. So this is, I think, one of those genocides that's on par in terms of scope and scale and meets the definition of genocide. in terms of what happened to Bengali Hindus, particularly to what happened in Rwanda, Cambodia, and many other genocides, but it still doesn't have the necessary awareness and recognition that many other genocides do. Next slide, please. So if you fast forward from 1971, obviously there's the huge gap of time between 1971 and 2001 where I want to pick up here, and a lot was happening. But 2001 really then saw a spike in systematic mass violence against the Hindu population. And again, many of the same groups were involved, Jamaat-e-Islami, but in many cases, the governments at hand were involved as well. So for instance, in 2001 in post-election violence, now this is the first time that Jamaat-e-Islami formally came to power in a coalition government with the Bangladesh Nationalist Party, which is considered a more right-wing Islamist party. In that violence, because Hindus were always viewed as voting for the Awami League, which was supposedly a secular party, although that is highly debatable, there was mass targeting of Hindus. So post-election violence investigations found that there were 18,000 incidents of human rights violations that occurred. Now, there were 26,000 plus accused that were found guilty in participating in that violence, including 25 government officials and 500,000 Hindu refugees that were forced to flee from that violence. Go forward 2013, you have again another similar pattern of mass violence occurring, and this is now when the Bangladeshi government was finally trying to have war crimes tribunals to look at what happened in 1971. Now, those tribunals weren't necessarily following international law, and they had many flaws, and some also say that there was some political targeting of the Awami League's opponents during those elections. But needless to say, it did bring out a lot of information and a lot of those that were involved in the genocide and in acts of war crimes, particularly from Jamaat-e-Islami and their affiliate organizations. Now, in that violence, Jamaat-e-Islami, they went on rampages and they again targeted Hindu villages, Hindu homes, and you can just see that almost 500 Hindu homes were attacked or destroyed, over almost 600 shops destroyed, and about 169 temples were attacked in that violence as well. That violence in 2013 also spilled over into election violence that happened at the end of the year. So into 2013 and 2014, there was mass violence that happened on the ground in Bangladesh. Now, what you see in the pattern of this violence is that when the Awami League was in power in 2013, did very little to stop it, said the right things, but on the ground, police were slow to take action. Those that were either prosecuted, oftentimes, were all let go afterwards, or not enough was done to protect the Hindu community from further violence or to further rehabilitate them from what they had suffered. Now, in 2021, last year, during Durga Puja, this actually was an escalation, not just the violence, but of the government response. So last year, in October of 2021, there was a false accusation of blasphemy against a Hindu on social media for allegedly defaming Prophet Muhammad. And it resulted in, again, a similar incident of mass violence against Hindus. And you can just see here some of the violence that was committed. There were also a number of rapes. And most tragically, a 10-year-old girl died after being gang raped, and she succumbed to her injuries. But what I want to point out here, which was not just inaction by the government, but actually post-violence, the government actually went on to deny that the violence occurred or to downplay it. And those Hindu activists and other activists that spoke out against that violence were actually jailed. And they were jailed allegedly because they were disturbing the peace or that they were posing a security threat to the country. So not only did the government do nothing to stop the violence or were slow to rehabilitate those that had suffered, but they actually went on the offensive in blaming Hindus for what happened and trying to silence those that were speaking up on the ground there. One of our partners on the ground in Bangladesh Hindu Buddhist Christian Unity Council, which also has chapters in the US and around the world that we work closely with, they have studied that violence very closely and have created reports on that violence. And I think what they have said is that this is the first time that we're seeing, or first time in recent memory, that we're seeing such a role of the government in terms of really suppressing any knowledge or any communications around what happened there, a real campaign to suppress what happened. Next slide, please. So in line with some of the systematic mass violence and going back to the genocide, I want to talk for a few minutes about the Hindu population decline in Bangladesh. So you can see here, pre-partition in 1947, in the eastern wing of Pakistan, which is now Bangladesh, about 31% of the population was Hindu. If you go forward into 1961, now this is post-partition, but where prior to Bangladesh attaining independence from the western wing of Pakistan, the Hindu population was about 19%. If you go forward post-genocide, in 1971, the population in 1974 was 14% of the population, and today is less than 9%, somewhere in the 8% range. It's estimated to be the current population in Bangladesh. There's been a lot of studies and work done on the population decline in Bangladesh in particular. One of the foremost experts is Dr. Abul Barkat, who is at the University of Dhaka, and he has studied some of the population declines and some of the trends, and also based on those numbers, made some very, very bold and disturbing, estimates of what will happen to the Hindu population in the next few decades if this current rate of decline continues. As you can see, he is alleging that basically Hindus will be extinct in Bangladesh in the next 3 decades. Now, whether that will actually occur or not, it's obviously very hard to say. We don't know what's going to happen in the next 3 decades. A lot of factors could happen. A lot of different things could happen. But the bottom line is that the population has been declining rapidly and is continuing to decline, and the violence is not letting up, and what's happening on the ground there is not changing. So what we will see is definitely a continuation in the population decline. Next slide, please. So what can be done? Well, a lot can be done. I think Rajesh pointed out a number of good things in actually connecting with those activists on the ground. Bangladesh, I think they're a little bit more organized in terms of Hindu organizations and the work that they're doing, and they have much more connections worldwide. But still, I think connecting with those on the ground, as Rajesh mentioned. But there's also a lot more simpler things that can be done. We have created a number of resources, and part of this is, yes, we have to, create the networks, we have to build change on the ground. But if people aren't even aware of what's going on in the first place, nobody's going to be even sensitized to that, and nobody's going to want to take action or actually push the change policy. So the first step is that education and awareness. One of the things that we do in schools in the US is that we've created education resources. So we're combining policy and education to bring a lot of this information down into the classrooms. So we have a Bangladesh Genocide 1971 education toolkit. This is something that can be used anywhere in schools. It doesn't have to just be the US, it can be in the UK, it can be in other places. That really talks about what happened, but it's tailored towards teachers and students. Another thing is that obviously continuing to advocate, write to your government representatives to make statements condemning violence in Bangladesh. One of the things that can be done actually now immediately is we're almost at that time of Durga Puja again in Bangladesh. So working with your respective governments, wherever you're based, to issue advisories, warning of potential violence in Bangladesh, again, to start pressuring them now in advance of anything happening on the ground in Bangladesh during Durga Puja or even beyond. Another important thing is to actually work towards designating those groups that are on the ground that are the most dangerous as terrorist groups. So Jamaat-e-Islami is one. They have a clear track record of not just fomenting violence, but also being engaged in terrorist activities and having close links with terrorist groups. So designating groups like Jamaat-e-Islami as a terrorist group domestically and internationally, whether at the European Union, at the UN, or beyond. Now, these campaigns take years. Obviously, nothing is going to happen overnight, but these are some of the steps that can be taken and must be taken in order to hold those responsible for the violence on the ground there, as well as making sure that we help to protect Hindus on the ground from future violence. Next slide, please. So now I want to transition a little bit to Pakistan. Rajesh also talked a little bit about this, so I don't want to overlap too much in what he talked about. But as we know, the modern Pakistani state was carved out of India in 1947 and declared an Islamic republic very quickly after independence in 1956. There's a legal preference for Islam, and that is throughout the legal system in the constitution. There is a parallel Sharia legal system, parallel courts. You obviously have blasphemy laws, which are probably the most stringent anywhere in the world, discriminatory textbooks, and all these combine to make Hindus as second-class citizens. There's also mob violence that Hindus face when any incident happens or accusation of blasphemy. The Hindus are the first that are targeted. There's kidnappings, conversions, illegal occupation of religious sites, and the bonded labor system. Rajesh talked about the population being primarily Dalit, and one of the connected issues with that is many of them are working in bonded labor, where they are basically exploited by landlords, often not paid, often not allowed to do anything else. The children are also forced into these exploitative systems. It's basically a modern day version of slavery. Next slide, please. Hindu population decline. Again, Rajesh talked about this, so I won't go too much detail about that. But Rajesh is correct that the major population decline did occur in the first few years after partition. So if you look at some of these statistics, 15% of the population in 1947, but 1.6% today nationwide. That major population drop happened between 1947 and 1951, but it's still important to have a historical view of the population decline in those first years. Similarly, in cities like Karachi and Lahore, where those were major Hindu centers of where Hindus were dominant both in the economy as well as culturally, as well as in government positions, you see a massive decline in the Hindu population, again, primarily between 1947 and 1951, but they still remain low population percentages to this day. So beyond that there's been a drastic decline in the number of temples. Now, what happened at the time of partition or after partition there was something created, which is a government institution called the Evacuee Trust Property Board. And the Evacuee Trust Property Board took control of Hindu and Sikh places of worship and other institutions as well. Now, this was in control of the Pakistani government. So a number of the Hindu temples that were under control of this board were either illegally leased to businesses, they were allowed to decay, or the ownership or rights of these were not given to the Hindu community. So as a result, along with the destruction and attacks on temples, we've seen a decline in the actual number of temples, and thousands have been destroyed, converted to mosques, or illegally occupied or sold since 1947. Next slide, please. One of the major issues that we're seeing today in Pakistan is the blasphemy laws, and as a result of that, mob violence. So in Pakistan, there have been 1,865 individuals of all faith traditions that have been charged under the blasphemy laws. And 129 have been killed through extrajudicial mob violence. One prominent example recently is Notan Lal, who was a Hindu school principal who was falsely accused of blasphemy and led to anti-Hindu riots. Now, not just are these people being attacked or Hindus being attacked because of accusations of blasphemy, but even when it's been shown that the blasphemy charges are false, the Hindu that has been alleged to have committed the blasphemy is still jailed without their basic civil rights. Another recent example that took place just within the last few weeks is Ashok Kumar, who is a Hindu sanitation worker, and he was nearly lynched to death by a violent mob of thousands of Muslim extremists. And he still is also in jail right now as well. Next slide, please. And finally, probably the most serious issue that's happening in Pakistan is the kidnappings and conversions of Hindu girls. According to human rights groups on the ground, an estimated 1,000 plus Hindu and Christian girls are abducted and forcibly converted to Islam every year. And if you look at that over a 10-year period, that amounts to 10,000 plus. Now, this is an entire system. This doesn't just happen sporadically, obviously systematic, but it doesn't happen without the assistance of Islamic seminaries, as well as the judicial system and police. So Islamic seminaries, this is primarily happening in Sindh, where the majority of the Hindu population resides. Islamic seminaries actually incite many of the Muslim students to kidnap Hindu girls, convert them, and marry them to Muslim men. What happens then is that the seminary will actually provide affidavits and provide legal certification of the conversion, saying that it was a legal conversion. The girl was of age and she converted out of her free will. And then they will also conduct the marriage ceremonies and provide the marriage certificates. So it looks like it was a voluntary and legal process through and through. Now, what happens from there is that oftentimes the families of the girls are prevented from even interacting with their daughters anymore and completely cut off, or they're intimidated and threatened into remaining silence. In some cases, the police will refuse to file cases, and in others where cases are filed, the judicial system usually sanctions the legality of the marriage and conversion because they're basing it on the documentation provided by these seminaries. So this is one of the issues that by far is plaguing Hindus the most. The way it's been presented is that it is an issue of girls being falling in love with a Muslim and then going and voluntarily converting and marrying them, and that these are just cases of, or these are made up cases, or these are the parents that are just upset about their girls falling in love with a Muslim and therefore they're filing false claims. Now, there may be some examples of that occurring, but the vast majority of the cases are actually where the girls are kidnapped, oftentimes from their own homes, oftentimes from on their way to school or out in public, and then being converted and forcibly married. So this is an issue that legislatively there have been some attempts to create laws to protect the Hindu minority in Sindh, but repeatedly those efforts have been stalled by some of the Islamist parties in Pakistan, unfortunately. So not much progress is being made on those issues. Next slide, please. So what can be done? Again, education and awareness is a starting point. Taking action as well. We have a number of resources, human rights reports, briefs, as well as other resources that you can use to educate the public through social media and other platforms. Write to your government representatives to pressure Pakistani officials. Right now, we have a campaign running to release some of the Hindu blasphemy prisoners that have been jailed, such as Notan Lal. So supporting those types of campaigns or creating new campaigns within the UK or in other places. And then advocating domestically and internationally for the conditioning of financial assistance to Pakistan based on their protection of minorities and constitutional and legal reforms. What does Pakistan care about? Number one, money. And number two, not being embarrassed, as most countries are. So these are the levers that you can push, right? Number one, trying to criticize them in an international space. And also number two, trying to impact the funds and financial resources that they are receiving throughout the world, from various countries or from international institutions. And finally, as Rajesh mentioned, building networks on the ground and also helping refugees in India. We had the opportunity also to visit refugee camps in Jodhpur several years ago and met with several of the refugees there, as well as some of the groups that were working with them, and continue to provide support to them through medical camps, and other COVID relief that we provided over the years to them. So continuing to support those both in Pakistan as well as those that are refugees in India, I think can go a long way to helping and making a difference. Of course, it's going to take a lot. It's going to take a lot of work, a lot of action. But we have, as a community internationally, the financial resources, the education to do something about it. It's up to us to do something in a coordinated manner to make actual change on the ground. And with that, I'll pass it back to open it up for some questions and answers if we have time.
Dhanyavad Samirji for a very insightful report and highlighting those very key issues. Well, now we move on to the questions. Our first question is to Rajesh ji. Whilst other communities have marches and lobby governments widely anytime someone in their community is persecuted, why is the Hindu community so passive? Do they not care? Rajesh ji?
Are you asking a question to me?
Yes.
I think it is the most unfortunate part of us. Means we were not articulate in our activities or our support system. We were never aggressive about it, because the most easy thing is to speak about it. Most easy thing is to demonstrate or stand somewhere with placard and so thing. But to my understanding, I'm an activist, so I believe that activism should go to your target group, should reach to your target group. ultimately they should be benefited. So what I say that I just explained that as far as the Christians are concerned, wonderful support system for their community in Pakistan. Excellent, means educational institutions, training. They are going to each and every village of Tharpurkar. Tharpurkar is still having 52% of the Hindu population. They are going to each and every village of Tharpurkar, establishing the training workshop for Christian and Hindu boys. Not only Christian boys, Christian and Hindu boys. And one of our HRD activists, who is always at the forefront when some crisis is there, he is now the manager of 20 such training centers. So when I speak to him almost on 3 times in a week, so I tell him, boss, you are also going to convert to Christianity very soon. Because I know my friends in Ludhiana, Jalandhar, my relatives, so they start going to their functions and ultimately they converted. So he's in Pakistan, Hindu community is in crisis. He can see that their counterpart who are Christians are being supported by Christian organizations around the world, and even Hindus are depending upon their support system. So if it can happen to him, I give you my word, this person who is always at the forefront whenever some crisis is there can convert to Christianity very soon. If he converts, that it will be major blow to us because we have absolutely no support system. Are my friends in USA who are from Pakistan? I don't want to name them publicly. They are well-resourced persons. They are US citizens. They are from Pakistan, and even then, they are not in this kind of an activism. They are not in kind of resistance or challenging the authorities. So till the time we have the mindset challenging an authority, challenging an authority in Pakistan through Hindu activists is something which is required to be done. So unless that happens, then I don't want to repeat my words that it's the lip service.
Thank you, Rajeshji. I hope people receive your criticisms and feedback, and the situation improves. Our next question is for Sameerji. How can we awaken the Hindu diaspora community to this persecution? Sameerji.
Yeah, that's $1 million question. I think, obviously, I think people are more and more aware of it. I think it's a question of how do you convert that awareness now, scale it, and then convert it to actual action. And I think that's what the focus needs to be. It needs to be done in a systematic manner. It needs to be done in everywhere that we have diaspora communities, calling on our own governments to put pressure, and then also building the networks to get things done on the ground. But in terms of actual awakening them, I think I don't know what the real answer to that is beyond education and awareness and continuing the activism. You can only try to awaken somebody, but if they don't want to wake up themselves, I think that's very difficult to change. But from our end, we have to continue the activism, we have to continue the advocacy, awareness, and education, and then we have to coordinate efforts in a better manner, in a more systematic manner, to actually produce greater change.
Yes, I agree with you, Sameerji, on that. Thank you. Rajeshji and Sameerji, we owe a huge gratitude for your seva to our Sanatani community. Thank you once again. And as you all may be aware, it's very unfortunate what has happened in Leicester. It was a totally unprovoked and an organized attack from one community on Hindus living peacefully over there. So we appeal to our viewers to stay tuned for more updates on Leicester clashes. Please follow us on insightuk.org for more details. And please share any videos, evidence, photos you may have with Leicester Police. And on 2nd of October last year, Insight UK held nationwide silent vigils at 40 different places across the country to spread awareness about the persecution of Hindus in Pakistan. And we have plans of holding silent vigils across cities in UK this year on the 2nd of October, highlighting atrocities on Hindus in Pakistan, Afghanistan, and Bangladesh. And we have received some very good feedback and encouragement, and we are in touch with the local police and aim to go ahead and continue with the silent vigil. We appeal you to find out more information and details from your nearest Insight UK team and participate in the silent vigil. You can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and feedback for any latest updates. And thank you all for joining us this afternoon. Stay safe and namaste.